Do you even know what you're looking at? The woman's voice sliced through the humid air of the auto shop, polished and cold, like glass cutting through grease. Standing in her designer heels, cream-colored suit untouched by dust, Victoria Langford looked wildly out of place among the clang of wrenches and smell of oil. Her driver stood awkwardly behind her, holding a Prada bag that probably cost more than every car parked outside combined. Across from her, bent over the hood of a sleek silver Mercedes, was Marcus Reed, dark skin glistening under the afternoon sun, hands steady, movements precise. His coveralls were stained, his jawline sharp, his expression unreadable. He didn't look up when he spoke. "Yes, ma'am. I know exactly what I'm looking at." Victoria folded her arms. "Then tell me, why does my engine sound like it's growling every time I turn the key? I paid for the best." Marcus's voice stayed calm. "Because the best doesn't always come from the dealership. Sometimes it comes from people who know how to fix what they build wrong." She arched a brow. "Is that supposed to be profound?" He finally looked up. His gaze was direct, not defiant, but steady. "No, ma'am. Just honest." Victoria scoffed, glancing around at the other mechanics, pretending not to listen. "Honesty is cute, but I didn't come here for charm. Just fix it quickly. I've got a board meeting in an hour and $1 billion deal to close." Marcus straightened slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. "You might want to call for a ride. This isn't a quick fix." She blinked. "Excuse me, your transmission's slipping. That takes time." Victoria let out a sharp laugh. "Time? Do you even know who I am?" He nodded once. "Doesn't matter who you are. Engines don't care about titles." That did it. The mechanics in the corner tried to suppress their grins. Victoria's face hardened. No one talked to her like that. She stepped closer, voice dripping with sarcasm. "All right, philosopher. Tell you what. If you can fix this engine before my next meeting." She paused for effect, lips curling into a smirk. "I'll marry you." The shop fell silent. Even the radio seemed to stop. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "I don't think your husband would appreciate that." Her smirk widened. "Oh, don't worry. I don't have one. Men can't keep up." The crew chuckled nervously, waiting to see if Marcus would take the bait. He didn't smile. "And what happens if I actually fix it?" Victoria tilted her head, playing it up. "Then maybe I'll let you shake my hand and thank me for the opportunity." He looked her dead in the eye. "You sure you want to make a bet like that?" "Oh, please," she said, waving dismissively. "You fix cars. I build empires." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he simply said, "All right." "What?" "I said all right. You've got a deal." She blinked, thrown off. "You can't be serious." He shrugged. "You made the offer." The tension hung thick. The shop had become a stage. Marcus turned back to the Mercedes, rolling up his sleeves. "You might want to grab a seat. This could get interesting." Victoria crossed her arms, smirking again. But there was something in his tone, something about that calm confidence that unsettled her. He popped the hood wider, eyes scanning every wire, every bolt. His movements were precise, almost surgical. The others watched, murmuring quietly. "Man's really going to try it?" "He's crazy. Bro's got guts." 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Sweat formed on Marcus's brow, his mind laser-focused. He tightened the belt, adjusted the timing, rewired a section of the harness. Every motion smooth, controlled, confident. Victoria scrolled through her phone, pretending not to care, but her gaze flicked up more than once. Something about the way he worked. It wasn't ordinary. Finally, Marcus stepped back. "Try it now." Victoria frowned but climbed into the car. She turned the key. The engine purred. Smooth, silent, perfect. The shop erupted. Laughter, applause, disbelief. Victoria's lips parted, stunned. She revved again, not a single sputter. Her car sounded brand new. She got out slowly, eyes darting between Marcus and the car. "What did you do?" He smiled faintly. "Fixed it." Her pride cracked for just a second before she caught herself. "Lucky guess." He handed her the keys. No luck involved. As she reached for them, Their fingers brushed, just barely, and she froze. His hands were rough, calloused, real. Hers were manicured, spotless, built for boardrooms, not engines. "Guess I win the bet," he said quietly. Her jaw tightened. "Don't flatter yourself. It was a joke." He stepped back, still calm. "Maybe, but I don't joke about keeping promises." And with that, he walked away, leaving Victoria Langford standing in the middle of her own silence, surrounded by people who just watched the first woman to ever lead Langford Industries lose to a mechanic. 3 days. It had been 3 days since that afternoon at the auto shop, and yet the sound of that perfectly smooth engine still echoed in Victoria's mind. She told herself it didn't matter, that he didn't matter. But deep down, something about Marcus Reed refused to fade. Sitting inside her penthouse office, 62 floors above the city, Victoria tried to focus on the presentation flashing across her screen. The skyline glittered behind her, a glass jungle built on her ambition. Her assistant, Lydia, stood nearby, reading off quarterly numbers. "And our investment in Langford Electromobility is up by 14%, but..." Victoria cut her off. "Lydia, tell me something." Lydia blinked. "Yes, ma'am." "How long does it take for a standard transmission repair on a Mercedes?" Lydia frowned, unsure if this was a test. Several hours, I suppose. Maybe a day." Victoria leaned back, eyes distant. "And what if someone did it in under an hour?" Lydia smiled cautiously. "Then I'd say they're a genius or a liar." Victoria didn't smile. "That's what I thought." Lydia tilted her head. "Is this about your car, ma'am?" Victoria waved it off. "It's nothing. Just curiosity." But it wasn't nothing. The image of Marcus, calm, precise, confident, kept intruding into her thoughts at the worst moments. She'd built her life around control, around perfection, around winning. Yet somehow, a man who worked in grease-stained coveralls had made her feel something she hadn't felt in years, challenged. That night, after a networking gala filled with fake smiles and champagne flutes, Victoria found herself staring at her car parked under soft garage lights. The engine was flawless, smooth, better than new. She ran a hand along the hood, her reflection shimmering in the metallic silver paint. "How?" she whispered to herself. Her phone buzzed. A message from her ex, Ethan Price, a Wall Street investor with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and an ego twice as tall. "Heard you had car trouble. Want me to send over my guy?" Victoria smirked, typing back. "Already handled. Better than your guy ever could." He replied instantly. "That's so? Guess I'll have to meet this miracle mechanic myself." She rolled her eyes and put the phone away. Ethan would never understand. None of them would. But she needed to. The next morning, before the city had fully woken, Victoria's Mercedes glided into the same dusty auto yard from before. The workers froze. A luxury car in this part of town stood out like a diamond in a junkyard. Marcus was there, sleeves rolled up again, focused on an old pickup truck. He didn't even look up when her heels clicked across the concrete. "You miss me?" she asked. He glanced over, unbothered. Didn't know CEOs came back for second opinions. She smirked. "I came to ask how you did it." He shrugged. "With tools. And time." "Don't play games," she said, stepping closer. "That car had 3 different specialists look at it before you. No one could fix it. And you did, in under an hour. How?" He leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. "Maybe I just care about what I'm doing." She frowned. "That's not an answer." He wiped his hands. "No, it's the only answer that matters. Most people rush to finish. I take my time to understand." Victoria studied him. He wasn't showing off. He wasn't trying to impress her. That unsettled her. "So what's your secret?" she pressed. "You one of those self-taught prodigies?" "Something like that," he said. "Spent a few years fixing engines that didn't belong to me." Her eyes narrowed. "Meaning?" He just smirked. "Let's just say the people I work for weren't as polite as you." Before she could reply, a loud voice boomed from the corner. "Yo, Reed, we got a delivery at Bay 2. Marcus turned. "Be right there." As he walked away, she called after him, You didn't answer my question. He paused at the door, looking back over his shoulder. Some questions are better left unasked, Miss Langford. And with that, he was gone again, leaving her in the thick scent of motor oil and mystery. That night, Victoria sat at home, the city lights flickering across her living room. Her thoughts wouldn't quiet down. She poured herself a glass of wine and opened her laptop. A few keystrokes later, she was scrolling through public databases. Marcus Reed. Nothing special came up. No social media. No business listing. No record of employment outside a small local garage. But then, something in an archive news snippet caught her eye. Former U.S. Marine and MMA fighter Marcus, the Rhino Reed wins national championship, undefeated. Her heart skipped. MMA fighter? She clicked deeper, but half the records were missing. His last fight dated years ago. Then he disappeared. Former champion turned mechanic. She whispered, "What are you hiding, Marcus?" She leaned back, the glass of wine untouched now, because one thing was clear. He wasn't just a mechanic. And for the first time in a long, long while, Victoria Langford didn't have control of the story. The next morning, the city buzzed like a hive. Emails, calls, numbers. Victoria moved through her schedule like a machine. But no matter how loud the boardroom got, one name pulsed at the back of her mind: Marcus Reed. By noon, she couldn't take it anymore. "Cancel my afternoon," she told Lydia. Her assistant blinked. "But, ma'am, the investors from Zurich." "Reschedule. Tell them I'm handling a personal matter." Lydia hesitated. "Should I ask what kind?" Victoria's sharp look ended the conversation. Her black Mercedes pulled up outside a modest brick building on the edge of town. Public Archives. The place smelled like dust and forgotten stories. Inside, an old clerk behind the counter looked up. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Victoria smiled politely. "I'm looking for records on a man named Marcus Reed. Born around 1988. Former military." The clerk typed slowly, his fingers tapping with the rhythm of an old typewriter. A few moments later, his brows furrowed. "That's odd." "What?" "His record exists, but it's restricted. Classified under federal access." "Classified?" She frowned. "He's not a criminal, is he?" The clerk leaned in, lowering his voice. "Not according to what I can see. But I'll tell you this. People don't get records sealed unless they've done something for the government or against it." Victoria's heart ticked faster. "Can you at least tell me where he served?" The man glanced around, then printed something quietly. He slid the paper to her. "You didn't get this from me." On the page, U.S. Marine Corps, Special Operations, 2010 to 2017. Last known deployment, Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. Status, honorable discharge, pending review. She looked up. "Pending review? What does that mean?" The clerk only shrugged. "Usually means something happened they don't want the public to know." That night, Victoria sat alone in her penthouse, the city stretching endlessly beneath her. The words, "pending review," played in her head like a broken record. She turned to her laptop again, this time using connections most people didn't know she had. A few private messages later, an encrypted file appeared in her inbox. "Confidential, Reed Marcus D." She hesitated, then opened it. What she saw made her blood run cold. A mission report, a village, an ambush gone wrong. And in the middle of it, Marcus Reed. He wasn't just a soldier. He was a leader, a man who'd save an entire squad when their extraction failed, but at the cost of civilian lives. The file ended abruptly with a single line. "Subject voluntarily retired following investigation. No charges filed. Psychological evaluation recommended." Victoria leaned back, the glow of her laptop washing her face in blue. He'd been through hell, and now he was fixing engines in a corner garage. She whispered to herself, "What happened to you, Marcus?" The next day, she returned to the garage. Marcus was under a car, music playing softly on a radio. "Back again?" he asked without looking up. "You're hard to ignore." He slid out, grease on his hands, a hint of a smirk on his lips. "That's new. Usually people like you forget me the moment they leave." She crossed her arms. You used to be in the Marines. That got his attention. His eyes narrowed, expression hardening. You've been digging. I wanted to understand who you are. He stood slowly. You don't need to understand me, Ms. Langford. You just needed your car fixed. You saved people, she said. You were a hero. He laughed, dry, humorless. Heroes don't end up here, fixing cars for minimum wage. Then tell me what happened. He wiped his hands on a rag, turned away. You wouldn't believe me if I did. Try me. Marcus froze. For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking of cooling metal. Then he said quietly, I trusted the wrong people, and they made me a villain for it. Victoria's voice softened. That's not fair. He looked back at her, eyes sharp. The world's not fair, Ms. Langford. You should know that better than anyone. She didn't argue. Couldn't, because deep down, she knew he was right. Later that night, as Victoria returned home, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered. A distorted voice on the other end said, Stop looking into Marcus Reed. The line went dead. Her heart stopped. She stared at her reflection in the car window, the city lights flickering behind her. For the first time in her life, Victoria Hale, the woman who never feared anything, felt a chill run down her spine. Someone didn't want her near Marcus Reed, which only made her more determined to find out why. The night air in downtown Chicago was sharp, biting. Victoria couldn't shake the words echoing in her head. Stop looking into Marcus Reed. She replayed the call again and again, her logical mind trying to file it under something ordinary, a prank, a scam, an idle threat. But her instincts, the ones that built empires, told her otherwise. This wasn't random. Someone knew. Someone was watching. At the same time, miles away, Marcus sat in his dimly lit apartment above the garage. No TV, no photos, just a bare mattress and a single window facing the alley. He'd heard her voice in his head all night. You were a hero. He wanted to laugh. If only she knew the truth. He opened the drawer beside his bed. Inside was a small black box. He hesitated before lifting the lid. Inside, a tarnished military medal. And beneath it, a folded photo of 5 soldiers smiling in desert sun. All of them were gone now, except him. His jaw tightened. Some ghosts don't stay buried, especially when people start asking questions. The next morning, Victoria walked into her office at Hale Global. Her assistant Lydia was waiting, pale and fidgety. Ma'am, there was a break-in last night. Victoria froze. Where? Your private office. Nothing stolen, but the security footage. She handed Victoria a tablet. On screen, a masked figure moved with military precision, in and out in less than 2 minutes. The intruder ignored cash, laptops, jewelry. They went straight to one folder in her locked drawer, the one labeled M. Reed. Victoria's stomach dropped. They knew exactly what to take. Lydia nodded, whispering, Do you want to call the police? Victoria shook her head slowly. No, not yet. Whoever this is, I don't want them knowing I'm scared. But she was. For the first time, Victoria Hale, who'd stared down billionaires, crushed competitors, and built an empire from ashes, felt the cold weight of fear pressing on her chest. That afternoon, she drove straight to the garage. Marcus was tuning a V8 engine, sweat glistening on his forearms. He didn't look up when she walked in. You shouldn't be here. They broke into my office, she said flatly. That made him stop. He turned, eyes dark. Who? I don't know. They only took one thing, your file. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You had no right to go digging. I was trying to understand. You were trying to control the narrative. That's what people like you do. Her tone sharpened. People like me? He stepped closer. People who think curiosity is a game. It's not. It gets people killed. Victoria swallowed. So you know who's after you. Marcus sighed, running a hand over his head. Let's just say I walked away from something that doesn't like being walked away from. What kind of something? Private military contracts. Off-the-books missions. The kind of work governments deny exists. Her voice faltered. You were a mercenary? Not by choice. He grabbed his jacket, wiping grease from his hands. They don't care if I'm fixing cars now. To them, I'm unfinished business. Victoria stared at him, and now I'm part of it. Marcus met her gaze, deadly calm. Yeah, you are. That night, a black SUV idled across from the garage. Inside, two men watched in the shadows. Target confirmed. One whispered into a headset. Orders. A voice on the line replied, cold and mechanical. Observe for now. If he makes contact with a woman again, eliminate both. Meanwhile, in her penthouse, Victoria poured herself a drink with shaking hands. She told herself she wasn't scared, that she could control this, that money could fix anything. Then the power went out. The entire skyline glowed, except her building. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. A text this time. You were warned. She looked toward the window, and there, across the street on the rooftop opposite hers, a red laser dot flickered for half a second, right on her chest, then vanished. Her glass shattered on the floor. Victoria grabbed her phone and did the one thing she swore she wouldn't. She called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Marcus, her voice broke. They're here. Stay away from the windows, he said instantly. Don't hang up. How do you know what to do? Because I've been the man on the other end of that rifle. Silence. Then the faint sound of him moving fast. Keys, door slamming, engine roaring to life. Marcus Reed was coming. And for the first time, Victoria wasn't sure if that made her safer or just put her deeper in the crosshairs. The city lights of Chicago burned to the fog like molten veins, but one tower stood in darkness. Victoria Hale's penthouse, 62 floors up. Marcus's Dodge Charger roared through the night, tires screaming as it cut across traffic. His jaw was set, every muscle locked in focus. He'd heard that tone before, the panic in her voice. It wasn't corporate fear. It was survival. Inside the penthouse, Victoria crouched behind a kitchen counter, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles went white. Marcus, they cut the power, she whispered. The cameras, the security system, everything's dead. His voice came through calm, sharp, low. Count the steps to the back hallway. Move now. I can't see anything. Follow my voice. Right foot first. Keep low. Her heart hammered in her chest as she crawled through the darkness. Every sound, the hum of the city outside, the faint creak of glass, felt amplified, wrong, watched. Then she heard it, a soft click, a door latch, slow and deliberate. Someone was inside. Marcus parked half a block away. He killed the engine, grabbed his duffel, and moved like a shadow, fast, quiet, surgical. No wasted motion. He reached the building's side entrance. The guard booth was empty. That was bad. He slid a lockpick from his pocket, jammed it into the panel, and the door beeped open with a soft hiss. He climbed 62 floors by service stairs. No elevator. Too loud. By the time he reached the top, sweat glistened on his brow, but his breathing was steady. He pressed his ear to the penthouse door. Silence. Then two voices, male, low, professional. Searched the study. Intel says the file might still be backed up. What about the woman? Orders say loose ends get cut. Marcus closed his eyes. Orders. Always orders. He whispered to himself, not tonight. Inside, Victoria crept behind the marble island. She could see two men in her living room, both dressed in black tactical gear, silenced pistols drawn. Her pulse thundered. Her reflection flickered on the stainless steel fridge, terrified, pale, small. Then, from the hallway, a faint metallic clink. The men froze. A screwdriver rolled across the floor. What the... Before they could move, the lights flickered once, then blazed to life, and Marcus was already behind them. The first man didn't even turn before Marcus disarmed him, twisted his wrist until bones snapped, and sent him face first into the glass wall. The second fired twice, silent shots. Marcus ducked behind the counter, grabbed a frying pan. Yes, a frying pan, and deflected the second bullet off the marble edge. Then he was in motion again. A spin, a kick, a brutal elbow to the ribs. The man dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. Victoria stared, stunned. He wasn't fighting like a street brawler. He was moving like something trained, methodical, lethal. Every strike was efficient. Every motion meant to end. One man groaned, reaching for his pistol. Marcus kicked it across the floor, sending it skittering under the couch. "Who sent you?" Marcus demanded. No answer, just a defiant glare. Marcus crouched low, calm but cold. "Last chance." The man spat blood. "They're not stopping, Reed. You know how this works." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Yeah, I do." He hit a nerve cluster behind the man's neck. Instant blackout. Victoria finally stood, trembling. Who are you?" she whispered. Marcus turned to her slowly. His eyes were steady, but behind them, something haunted burned. "I told you not to get involved," he said. "Now they think you're leverage." She swallowed. "Leverage for what?" He looked away. "Something I stole from them. Information, names, places that were never supposed to exist." Her mind spun. "So they're government?" Marcus shook his head. "Worse. They're the people hiring the government. The ones who never show up on paper." He grabbed her wrist suddenly. "We need to move." "Where?" "Somewhere safe. I have security at my office." "Not anymore," he said. "They already took your file. You're on the list now." Her eyes darted to the unconscious men. "What about them?" "They'll wake up in an hour," Marcus said, already packing his duffel. "By then, we'll be gone." Minutes later, they were on the freeway. Victoria stared out the window, the city lights streaking past like fireflies. "You saved my life," she said quietly. Marcus didn't answer. "Why?" she pressed. "You didn't have to." He exhaled, eyes fixed on the road. "Because I know what it's like to be hunted by your own mistakes." Victoria looked at him, the calm in his voice, the exhaustion in his eyes, and for the first time saw the man beneath the mystery, and that scared her more than the assassins. Because she realized this wasn't just a mechanic with a dark past. This was someone too dangerous to lose, and too broken to trust. The massive garage door rolled open, sunlight spilling across a row of luxury cars that gleamed like mirrors. In the center stood a red Aston Martin, hood open, engine lifeless. Claudia stood beside it, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete floor. She wore a tailored navy suit, the same shade as her cold, calculating eyes. Across from her, Marcus wiped his hand with a rag, his jumpsuit streaked with grease. He didn't look up. He didn't need to. He could feel her gaze, piercing, dismissive, burning with superiority. "Still can't figure it out?" Claudia asked, her tone dripping with mockery. "I thought you mechanics had instincts or something." Marcus glanced up, calm but unimpressed. "Engines don't need instincts, ma'am. They need patience. And respect." She smirked. "Respect? It's a car, not a person." Marcus smiled faintly. "That's the problem with people who've never had to fix anything." The silence that followed was heavy. Her assistant shifted awkwardly in the corner, pretending to check her phone. Claudia stepped closer, folding her arms. "Tell you what," she said playfully, her lips curling. "If you can fix this engine, this custom engine that even Aston Martin engineers can repair, I'll marry you." Her assistant gasped quietly, half amused, half horrified. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then simply nodded. "Deal." Her smirk faltered. She hadn't expected him to take it seriously. Later, night. The garage was silent, except for the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Marcus worked alone, sleeves rolled up, muscles tense. The smell of oil and steel filled the air. He moved with precision, methodical, deliberate, confident. As he worked, he whispered under his breath, "You treat it right, it talks back." A faint click echoed, the sound of a system coming alive. Across the room, Claudia returned, wine glass in hand, just in time to see the engine roar to life. The deep growl filled the air like thunder. Her glass nearly slipped from her fingers. Marcus didn't look up. He just leaned against the fender, arms crossed, expression calm. Guess you'll need to start planning a wedding. Claudia's laughter was uneasy, almost nervous. You must have cheated. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You think a man like me gets anywhere by cheating? Her face tightened. She didn't have a response. And boardroom, next morning. News traveled fast. The CEO who mocked a mechanic and lost a bet had become the talk of the company. Claudia entered the boardroom to hushed whispers and curious stares. Her assistant leaned in. They're saying he's famous. That guy, Marcus. Apparently he's an ex-MMA fighter. Claudia froze mid-step. What? Yeah, the assistant whispered. Used to go by the Phenom. Retired after some championship tragedy. Claudia's heartbeat quickened. She sat down slowly, mind racing back to the calm in Marcus's eyes. Not arrogance, not fear, control. The kind of control only someone dangerous learns to master. And garage day. Claudia appeared again at the garage, but this time without the entourage or attitude. She lingered by the door, watching Marcus clean his tools. You fought, she said quietly. He didn't look up. A long time ago. Why'd you stop? He paused, then finally met her gaze. Because fighting for pride costs more than it's worth. She nodded slowly. For the first time, her tone softened. I didn't mean what I said yesterday. I know, Marcus replied simply. You said it because you thought you could. She flinched at the honesty. He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel his calm energy. You built your world so high, Claudia. You can't see who's standing at the bottom keeping it up. Her breath caught. He walked past her, leaving her frozen in silence. Montage over days. Claudia starts visiting more often, first out of curiosity, then out of something deeper. She watches him work, listens to his quiet discipline, the respect he shows every tool, every bolt. One evening, she finds herself helping him, holding a light while he tightens a part. Her expensive blouse has oil stains, her hair messy, but she doesn't care. They talk about failure, about people who judge them, about second chances. The walls between them begin to crack. In private office, night, Claudia sits alone at her desk, watching a video clip on her laptop. It's Marcus, years younger, in the ring, fighting like a storm. The announcer's voice echoes. The Phenom delivers another knockout. Then the next clip, the match where he stops fighting mid-round to save his opponent's life after a near-fatal hit. The crowd boos. He walks away forever. She closes the laptop, eyes wet. The man she mocked wasn't just strong. He was human in a way she had forgotten how to be. The tension in the boardroom could be cut with a blade. A massive screen displayed a viral headline in bold red letters. Sterling Motors CEO mocks mechanic in racist bet gets schooled. The leaked video, the exact moment Claudia said, "Fix this engine and I'll marry you," was now the internet's favorite clip. Millions had seen it, and not kindly. Her PR head was pacing. We're trending everywhere. Hashtags, memes, think pieces. This is bad, Claudia. Really bad. Claudia sat still, her face pale but unreadable. How did it get out? We don't know, but the damage is done. Across the table, one of the board members muttered, "You made us look like elitists. We can't afford that. Investors are panicking." Claudia's fingers clenched under the table. She wanted to scream, at them, at herself, at the situation, but she didn't. Instead, she stood up slowly. "I'll fix this." The PR head scoffed softly. "How? By making another bet?" Her jaw tightened. "No, by proving I'm not who they think I am." EXT Garage Day. Marcus was underneath the car, the radio softly playing a blues song. He heard footsteps, sharp, hurried, then silence. "Didn't expect to see you here again," he said without looking up. Claudia stood near the door, dressed plainly this time. No makeup, no jewelry, just a woman stripped of her armor. "I need your help," she said quietly. That made him pause. He rolled out from under the car, wiping his hands. Help or redemption? She swallowed hard. Maybe both. He crossed his arms. What's going on? They leaked the video, she said. People think I'm a racist snob who humiliates people for sport. Marcus gave a small, humorless laugh. And you want me to tell them you're not? She looked down. I want to make it right. There was a long silence. Then Marcus turned away. People like you don't ask for help unless they've lost everything. I haven't lost everything, she whispered. He glanced back, eyes steady. Not yet. In garage night. Marcus finally agreed on his terms. You don't get to script this, he said. No PR spin. No fake smiles. We do this my way. What's your way? She asked cautiously. He smiled faintly. You'll find out. The next day, Claudia arrived at the garage to find cameras, but not the kind she expected. Local reporters, community vloggers, mechanics from nearby shops. Marcus had invited everyone. This is your test, he told her. You want to fix your image? Then start fixing engines. Her jaw dropped. What? Get your hands dirty, Claudia. Let the world see what you're made of. Montage. Claudia learns the hard way. The footage showed Claudia fumbling with wrenches, burning her hands, getting oil on her face, struggling to lift a tire. The crowd laughed, some mockingly, some encouragingly. Marcus watched quietly, never helping unless she asked. His calm voice guided her through mistakes. Don't fight the machine, he said softly. Work with it. Hours turned into days. The story began to change online. People started sharing clips, not her failure, but her persistence. At least she's trying. You can tell she's learning. Respect to Marcus for making her earn it. Bit by bit, public perception shifted. Garage, late night. It was well past midnight. Claudia sat beside the finished car, exhausted, hands filthy. Marcus handed her a water bottle. You did good, he said. She laughed weakly. You mean I didn't embarrass myself? He smiled. You embarrassed yourself plenty, but you kept going. There was a pause, the kind of silence that feels like a heartbeat. She looked at him, eyes softer than they'd ever been. Why did you help me? Marcus's expression grew distant. Because I know what it's like to be misjudged. People see skin, status, money, not who we are underneath. Claudia exhaled. I've spent years proving I deserve to be where I am. I forgot what humility feels like. He nodded. You just found it again. XT garage next morning. The next morning, a major TV station arrived. Reporters crowded the garage as Claudia stood beside Marcus. She faced the cameras. I said something cruel to a man I didn't understand. He could have humiliated me. Instead, he taught me, not just about engines, but about people. She looked at Marcus with genuine gratitude. I don't deserve his forgiveness, but I'm grateful for his patience. The clip went viral again, but this time for the right reasons. The same world that mocked her began to root for her. And boardroom day, her board watched the redemption arc unfold. Share prices began to recover. Comments flooded in praising her growth. The PR head whispered, whatever you did, it's working. Claudia just smiled faintly. It wasn't PR. It was honesty. EXT garage evening. As the sun dipped low, Claudia returned to the garage one last time. Marcus was cleaning up as usual. I owe you more than thanks, she said. He shook his head. You don't owe me anything. She hesitated, then grinned playfully. You sure? Because technically I did make a promise. Marcus looked up, amused. You mean? She held up a wrench. You fix the engine. He chuckled. The first real laugh she'd heard from him. You're not serious. Maybe I am, she teased. Or maybe I just want to see if the world's toughest mechanic can handle dinner with a CEO. Marcus smiled, leaning against the car. Depends who's driving. She smirked. We'll take the Aston. Rain glazed the streets of downtown Chicago in silver. The city hummed, quiet, alive, indifferent. Marcus Cole stood outside the Silver Finch, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants. He tugged at the collar of his simple black shirt, feeling slightly out of place among suits and dresses. Then a black Aston Martin pulled up. Claudia stepped out, confident, radiant, but not the same woman from before. Gone with the diamond earrings, gone the air of superiority. She smiled softly. Didn't think you'd actually come. Marcus smirked. Didn't think you were serious. I don't joke about dinner, she said. Business meetings, maybe, but food? Never. The valet opened the door, and they walked in together. And the Silver Finch, night. The restaurant oozed wealth, gold accents, crystal chandeliers, whispers instead of laughter. Heads turned when Claudia walked in, but this time, she didn't care. Marcus caught the stares. Guess they're not used to seeing a mechanic in their temple of fine dining. Claudia looked at him, let them stare. They were led to a corner booth overlooking the city skyline. The waiter tried to mask his surprise at Marcus's presence, handed him a menu as though it might burn his hands. Marcus chuckled under his breath. Guess some things never change. Claudia sighed. They will. Eventually. He looked up curious. You really believe that? She met his gaze. I have to. Mid-dinner. Soft piano playing. They ordered. They talked. Not about engines or business, but about life. Marcus told her about growing up in Detroit, fixing cars since he was 12, how his father used to say, "Machines don't judge you. People do." Claudia listened intently. No boardroom interruptions. No phones. Just two people, worlds apart, finding common ground. When she asked, "Why didn't you ever open your own shop?" He smiled sadly. Tried once. Bank said, I didn't look like someone who could handle a loan. Her eyes lowered. The guilt she thought she'd buried resurfaced. I'm sorry, she said softly, for everything I said, for what people like me say every day without thinking. Marcus leaned back. You learned. That's more than most. The light moment. The waiter returned with dessert, a molten chocolate cake. Claudia smiled. You like chocolate? Marcus grinned. Does anyone not like chocolate? They laughed, genuine, easy. The air between them shifted, the tension of class, color, and pride slowly dissolving. Then Claudia said, You know, the last time we met, I told you I'd marry you if you fixed that engine. He chuckled. Yeah, didn't take you for a woman who keeps her word. She smirked. Maybe I'm full of surprises. The quiet moment, the laughter faded into silence. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, the candlelight flickered between them. Marcus leaned forward slightly. What are you really looking for, Claudia? Her expression softened. Peace, maybe? Connection. Something real. He nodded slowly. You ever had real? She shook her head. Not until lately. Their eyes locked. Something unspoken hung in the air. Fragile, powerful, dangerous. Restaurant later, as they left, the maitre d' smiled politely, though the judgment in his eyes was unmistakable. Claudia noticed and turned to Marcus. Next time, she said, we're eating at your spot. He smiled. My spot's a barbecue joint that uses car tires for chairs. Perfect, she said. I'll bring the champagne. EXT street night. They stepped into the rain. She opened her umbrella. He didn't. Don't you hate getting wet? She asked. Marcus smiled. Grew up in storms. You stop fearing the rain after a while. She looked up at him, rain beating off his skin. I envy that. He chuckled. Don't. It just means I've been through more storms than most. The Aston Martin waited, headlights glowing like twin suns. But for a moment, they didn't move. They just stood there, two souls from opposite worlds, caught in the same downpour. Finally, Claudia whispered, Thank you. Marcus frowned slightly. For what? For reminding me what kind of person I still can be. He looked at her for a long moment. Then, softly, Don't thank me yet. In Marcus's garage, the next morning, Marcus opened his shop, only to find 3 black SUVs parked outside. From one of them stepped a man in a tailored suit. Mr. Cole, he asked smoothly. Marcus nodded cautiously. The man handed him a card. Sterling Motors, Executive Operations. Miss Hale wants to see you, he said. Marcus stared, brow furrowed. Now! The man smiled faintly. She's making you an offer you won't refuse. The hum of air conditioning filled the glass-walled boardroom as Marcus Cole walked in. No coveralls, no grease-stained gloves, just a clean black button-up and confidence that didn't need announcing. The skyline of Chicago stretched behind him, cold and magnificent. Claudia Hale stood by the window, her reflection sharp against the morning light. She turned when he entered, a smile flickering on her lips, equal parts warmth and nerves. "You came," she said softly. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You sent 3 black SUVs. I didn't think I had a choice." Claudia chuckled. "Fair enough. Have a seat." The pitch. She slid a file across the table, thick leather-bound, embossed with Sterling Motors logo. "I'm expanding the company," she began, her tone steady. "New department, performance engineering, electric engines, sustainable tech. But I don't want the usual suits running it. I want someone who actually understands machines." Marcus didn't touch the file. "So why me?" "Because," she said, stepping closer, "you fixed something no one else could. You saw what my team missed. And because when I doubted you, you didn't break. You built." He smirked faintly. "And this is your apology?" She met his gaze. "This is my offer." Tension builds. He opened the file. Salary. Title. Stock options. His name. Chief Technical Advisor. He looked up, incredulous. "You're serious." Claudia folded her arms. "Completely?" Marcus exhaled, shaking his head. "You're asking a man who spent half his life under cars to suddenly walk into boardrooms." "I'm asking a man who knows engines better than anyone I've ever met," she corrected. "And someone I trust." That last word, trust, hung heavy in the air. The power shift. Marcus leaned back, studying her. "You ever think maybe you're doing this to make yourself feel better?" Claudia froze. "Excuse me." He stood, his voice low but firm. "You want to fix your conscience. Put me in a suit, parade me around a board. Say, look, I gave the mechanic a shot. That it?" Her eyes flashed. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it, Claudia?" he asked, stepping closer. "You said I reminded you of the kind of person you could be. What if I remind you of the kind of person you still aren't?" The silence that followed could have cracked glass. Then, softly, "You think I'm still that woman from the gas station?" she asked. Marcus didn't blink. "I think people change when it costs them nothing. This costs something. So prove it." Claudia swallowed, meeting his stare. "Fine. I'll prove it." The test. She pressed a button on the intercom. "Send him in." A man in a navy suit entered, carrying an engine schematic. He placed it on the table. "This," Claudia said, "is the prototype our team can't finish. It's cost us 6 months and nearly $500,000. She turned to Marcus. "You solve it, and the job's yours. Not as a favor. Not as a token. Because you earned it." Marcus stared at the blueprint. Intricate, technical, impossible to fake. He grinned slightly. "You really want to play that game?" She crossed her arms. "I thought you didn't follow orders." He smirked. "I don't, but I do love a challenge." The demonstration. Hours passed. The room filled with murmurs as Marcus stripped the schematic apart with his eyes. He asked for tools, made calculations on the glass wall, his handwriting quick and precise. Engineers gathered around, first skeptical, then fascinated. By the time he finished, the design that had baffled a corporate team of 12 was solved by one man in a mechanic's shirt. He turned, wiping his hands. "There's your answer. Your efficiency's off by 2% because your cooling intake doesn't compensate for power surge heat. Fix that, and your prototype runs clean." The engineers just stared. Claudia blinked once, twice, then smiled, slow, proud, genuine. "Congratulations, Mr. Cole," she said. "You're hired." After the storm, the others filed out, leaving them alone again. Marcus leaned on the table. "So, when do I start?" Claudia smirked. "You already did." He laughed. The first real laugh she'd ever heard from him. "You really don't stop, do you?" "Not when something's worth fighting for," she said. Their eyes met, and this time it wasn't business. Not anymore. Later, outside the building, as Marcus left Sterling Motors, the press swarmed the steps. Mr. Cole, are you the new head engineer? How does it feel to go from mechanic to corporate executive overnight? He stopped, gave a half smile to the flashing cameras. Engines don't care what you wear, he said. They just care if you listen. The cameras went wild. Reporters shouted his name, but he was already walking away. Claudia watched from her window above, her reflection merging with a silhouette on the street below. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt in business: humility, and maybe hope. Rain whispered against the glass towers of downtown. The city lights blurred through the storm like streaks of gold and regret. Inside a penthouse window high above it all, Claudia Hale stood alone, watching the rain slide down her reflection. Her empire gleamed behind her: awards, magazines, trophies. Everything she had fought for, everything she thought mattered. But tonight, none of it felt like victory. Not after he walked out of that boardroom, without saying goodbye. And penthouse, continuous, a knock. Once, then twice. She turned. Marcus stood in the doorway, rain still clinging to his shoulders, his black jacket soaked, his expression unreadable. "Your security let me up," he said quietly. "Said you looked like you needed someone to talk to." Claudia exhaled, masking surprise with her usual composure. "You just walk into women's penthouses unannounced now." He smiled faintly. "Only the ones who try to hire me out of guilt." That earned a smirk. "You took the job." "I took the challenge," he said, stepping closer. "Not the charity." The tension returns. The silence stretched. The city hummed below. Finally, Claudia spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "You know, when I said that stupid thing about fix the engine and I'll marry you, I didn't think you'd actually fix it." Marcus chuckled. "You didn't think a mechanic could." She looked down, ashamed. "Yeah, I didn't." He took another step forward. "And now," she met his gaze, for the first time without armor. "Now, I think you fix more than just an engine." The confession. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, eyes searching hers. "You ever wonder why I took that job in the first place?" he asked. Claudia shook her head. "Because that day," he said, "you looked at me like I was invisible. And I wanted to remind you and myself that we never are. Not the people who build, not the ones who sweat, not the ones who break and fix and try again." His voice softened. "I didn't want your apology. I just wanted you to see me." Claudia's eyes shimmered, emotion catching in her throat. "I see you now," she whispered. "God, Marcus, I see you." The shift. He smiled, that quiet, devastating smile that always carried more truth than anger ever could. "You've built something incredible, Claudia, but you've been standing on top of it alone." She looked up at him. "And you think you're strong enough to stand next to me?" Marcus grinned. "I've fought heavier opponents in the garage." She laughed, an actual laugh, genuine and unguarded, the kind that made the air lighter. The promise. He stepped closer now, just inches away. "I'm not asking for anything," he said softly. "Not money, not power, just honesty. You treat me like a man, not a tool, and I'll give you everything I've got." Claudia's voice trembled. "That sounds dangerously close to a proposal." Marcus smiled. "You already made one, remember? You said if I fix your engine." She blinked, realizing, then shook her head, laughing through tears. That was sarcasm. He leaned in slightly, eyes gleaming. Maybe I took it seriously. The moment, for a second, neither spoke. The storm outside roared louder. Thunder rolled to the skyline, but inside, the silence was electric. Then, softly, deliberately, she reached out. Her fingers brushed his. And just like that, two worlds that were never meant to meet finally did. The epilogue, 6 months later. A sunny day. The same garage where it all began, but transformed. Now gleaming with Sterling Motors logos, solar panels, and a new sign, Cole Performance Lab, in partnership with Hale Global. Marcus stood beside a custom-built engine, hands on his hips. Claudia leaned against the car beside him, her once perfect blazer replaced by rolled-up sleeves and oil on her wrist. You know, she teased. For someone who hates orders, you sure like telling me what tools to hand you. He smirked. Bosses don't always wear suits. A reporter snapped photos nearby, capturing the moment. The CEO and mechanic who rebuilt more than machines. Claudia turned to Marcus. You ever regret taking that deal? He shook his head. Not for a second. You! She smiled, eyes soft. Not for a lifetime. The camera flash went off, capturing the mid-laughter, mid-life, mid-promise. Because sometimes the engine that really needs fixing is the one that beats inside us.